Hey. Hey. Nyom. Good morning. Good morning, Martini and Higa. Hi, 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 hi. I have a dog in my lap. This is an unusual condition, because it's the scaredy dog, but he really seemed interested in being in my lap. Bud? What? I can't pay attention to you right now. I'm supposed to be doing a thing. Okay? Okay, don't you understand? Don't you understand, lad? He does not understand. What? Would you like a dog? Are you stuck? Do you feel stuck because you feel like you're too high up because your legs are so short? Here you go. I'll put you over there. Oh. You did it. Oh, don't come back. No, it's not. It's not. Toss the dog on the. Okay, come here. Oh. All right. But I gotta do stuff, buddy. I gotta do some stuff, okay? You can sniff the keyboard, but don't click on it. All right. What was I gonna do to? Oh, right. Well, I thought, since my brain is so completely full of where are you going? You don't look comfortable, but when I put you down, you just try to get back up. We got a head full of programming and stuff. this thing is not opening the file that I wanted it to open. So I thought that I would talk about the little silly thing I did. A little video. And Rex thought the same thing. He thought the same thought. Find where I put it though. It's in here. It's in here somewhere. For reasons unknown, when I double clicked on it, it was like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to open up. Crap. We might have a versioning issue here. That's unfortunate. Not giving me a specific error. But the blend file that I was editing on my main machine is not opening as I imagined it would. I had imagined it would open, and it's not opening over here on Frex's machine.
A rush! A rush! A rush chicken!
The file format is not supported.
A rush! A rush! A rush chicken!
Well, I'm not going to swear at it out loud. That is wildly disappointing. It is a blend file, yes. In the upper left-hand corner, there's the blend menu. Sure, there's a better name for it. It's the little menu next to the file menu that has the Blender icon. The second option down should say About Blender. Oh, I'm on 3, am I? Alright, well, we'll update you. Over here in Frex Computer Land, we are on 2.91.2. And at some point, apparently, I had updated my machine to version 3. What have you. So let's set about that real quick. And for giggles, and since this is the sort of thing that folks just wind up having to do sometimes. Let's see, which monitor is, you have that capture set up already? Right. What do you have it? Oh, it's just, okay. Yes, there is one called monitor. I can't confirm that it shows that specifically with. Okay. So we're gonna take that. We're gonna put it over here. I'll put it here. And what happens if I reorder it a little and turn it on? No, reorder it more. More. Reorder it. Nope, it's gotta go under that. It's gotta go under all of that. Now? Too far. We've gone too far. Oh, There it is. Okay. Bam. Alright. I'm just... Since this is the sort of thing folks have to do, I might as well show it, I suppose. We're making sure our tools are up to date now because we've got multiple workstations at the house here, and one of them is on Blender 3 point some odd, and one of them is on Blender 2.9 point some odd. And come to find out, my project that I was working on was saved in whatever such a way that it's not backwards compatible, which I suppose makes plenty of sense. So I'm gonna get that downloaded. You know, while that's downloading, maybe we can run some Steam. Maybe we can run some Hexseed. Where is that? I guess we're just going to the library here. Frex doesn't play it. I'm the only one who plays it. Library. Probably starts with an H. There it is. Oh yeah. What's that download? Oh. Alright. I hear Hexseed in my headphones, but I'm not sure anyone else hears it. Oh, there we go. Yeah? We hearing the grooves? Okay. Haha. Blender is still open. Let's close that. The cube. Oh my gosh, it's an executable file. Look at that file name. We've downloaded this before, and maybe I just never ran it. Whoopsie. All right. Just to make sure it's all installed. Thank you very much. We're changing Blender. Thanks, Shazam. Thank you for confirming the jams. The wizard complete. I'm gonna test real quick if that resolved the situation. I may need to change the open width because I believe old versions of Blender stay resident when you upgrade. I'm gonna go more. I just want to go look for another app. Program. Blender. I want the launcher or this one? Let's try this one. Good. Blender 3.0.1 Blender app. File location of the Blender app. Blender. Blah 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 blah. Starting. Alt Enter to bring up the properties. Alt F to go to the file's location. That key sequence hasn't changed in like 20 years. Blender.exe. Blender 2.91.2. Squeeze me. Exquose me. Blender 3.0.1, not 2.91.2. No. No. Bad. Not what I wanted. There we go. Search. Blender 3.0.1. Oh, it's pointing to the... I didn't even notice. It's pointing to a portable version of Blender. That is... Oh, my glob. Oh, my glob. There's the problem. Let's see, is that the... I don't remember what it is. Fine, we'll just do it this way. I don't think it's an 86. Retrieve. Blender.exe. Shift delete for cut. Another one of the ancient key combos. Alright. The target is there. Might as well just start it in its own folder. Use the dickens out of it. The dickens have been confused. Some kind of splash screen here, yeah? 3.1, 3.0, 3.0.1. I can numbers. I know how to numbers. Alright, well, I'm going to set that aside for a second. Let's do an hex seed. One hex seed, please. We're still in tutorial aisle. Fine, that's cool. Let's do this. Real-time upgrade live. Hey, I wanted to talk about the process. 0, 0, 0, 0. Hey, nice. 0, 1. Got an arrow pointing that way. 0, 0, 1. This is still 0, 0. So no, no. 0, 1, 1, 1. Oh, Chicken of the Hair says something. Well, I just was gonna do one level. I'm gonna go back and forth a little if it's all right. Okay, look. Chicken of the Hair says she didn't want our category to be wrong, so I'm gonna close this for now. But I'm not gonna spend much. I wasn't gonna spend long in there. Well, let's see if we've solved the Blender compatibility situation here. Splash screen said 3.0.1, right? Yep. All right. Did that file that kept failing to open enough to show up in my recent? Nope. That's okay. That's fine. Let's go open. I put it in this folder called Coop. This is just a copy of the folder from my other machine. Used our little network attached storage to send it over here. Coop.blend. Hey, there we go. There's everybody. There's the old familiar Blender video editing interface that I'm sure at least 10 people know how to use. I'm not one of them. I barely know how to use this. But I have learned enough to, I think, be functional in it. I'd like to talk about it. And while I do, Maybe I could throw myself in here. All right. So, in Blender, when you start a new project, when you open up Blender and you're starting fresh, like if you're following along with some of those VRM tutorials and stuff that VTubers often find themselves floating through at least once, you wind up at the start screen, and they'll almost always just click away from this because it defaults to the general anyway. So it's already got this project open, and a lot of times they'll just immediately go all delete. Oh, I should have put up a keyboard map, the thing that shows your key inputs. I don't think we've got one of those on here on this computer at the moment. I'll just say them out loud. That's not going to help people later on. And then they'll import their VRM and wiggle things around and click on things and change things and, you know, do stuff that you do in 3D. But you've also got this video editing, which brings you up to something like this. Now, my first pass through being exposed to the video editing here was because I wanted to do something that I thought should be doable and was very obscure and not something that people really very much supported, especially not outside of or not in the free software type environments. And what I wanted to do was take something like a GIF and render it as a video file with transparency, like a WebM with transparency, which you've been able to do since I think at least the ones that do WebM/V8, and the V9 is the standard one now. And at that time, I had figured out just enough to figure out how to make that work. And now, from following tutorials and stuff, and I by the time I revisited the idea of rendering videos in Blender, I'd already forgotten how to make the background actually retain its alpha transparency. So now I want to talk through how that's done by way of settling it even more into my mind, and to talk about this little project over here. So on a fresh one, you've got, and how much of this, which one of these was it in? One of these got video, and I forgot. But see, I really need to get it like settled into my mind harder. Oh, it's called film. All right. Under render properties, you've got to make sure that film has transparent, or whatever you're rendering to, regardless of whether you've set your color depth or whatever format you use. If film doesn't say transparent, then the virtual film that it's using won't be transparent. Then you go to your output properties, and you've got your resolution set to whatever you feel comfortable with. I didn't change it. You've got the frame rate set to whatever you feel comfortable with. I don't think I changed mine. You come over here and output properties and find your way down to output, and you make sure you've got FFmpeg video selected. And you're like, RGB, that's red, green, blue. Where's the alpha? Where's the A? Where's the RGB A? Well, you've got to make sure that you've got an encoding, a video encoding selected that supports that, which at the moment I believe is only QuickTime or WebM. Well, I think you could probably select the Matroska as long as your codec, you could select the Matroska container as long as your codec was one of those that supported the transparency. But to keep myself clear on which codec I have embedded I have inside of the container, I've tended to just select either QuickTime or WebM, and I've been gravitating more toward WebM. And then you make sure that you've got a video codec, because WebM can use other codec, whatever codec. So you're going to make sure you've used a video codec that supports the transparency, WebM VP9. And then, if you want your audio track attached to all this, you've got to make sure that you've selected an audio codec that's compatible with this, which in this case, the most safest way to go is just Vorbis, because that's what the V stands for in the VP9, I'm fairly sure. It might not be. But I remember it that way. Anyway, there's a V, and there's a V in Vorbis. So you've got to make sure that you've got a compatible audio codec if you're going to put audio tracks in here, which I did. So got to make sure you've got a compatible audio format. And it may have been a quirk of my particular instance of FFmpeg or whatever, but I did notice that for mine, mono does not work. I only have mono audio sources, I think. Pretty sure I had them set to mono, but mono didn't work. I had to make sure it was set to stereo. And then, you've got to make sure that having selected a video codec that supports the alpha layer, you've got to make sure you've got your RGBA selected up here. If you can have everything else set up all peachy keen, but if you didn't come up here and tell it your color format is RGBA, it will still render with a black background. All right, so I'm going to close this. Let's save. We'll come over here. You can see I got all that set up after a couple of times of rendering the entire project and then remembering that I had forgotten to change one thing, and then render the entire project and then remember that I had forgotten to change one other thing. I finally got it all lined up. I got my Vorbis, it's in stereo, it's going out to a format that supports RGBA, into a container that supports that encoder. I've got my color depth set to RGBA, and I did actually remember, at last, to set my film to be transparent. I haven't got all that set up. Frex went and and did most of this gathering. I gathered a little bit of it, but Frex did most of the gathering of friend emotes. Or we just went online and collected up pings and GIFs. We got Aegon, we got Clover was in there. I wound up with 2 versions of Crab. I'm not sure why. Heavy Gamer Gomi. Higa. We got Higa. Hope you don't mind our choice, Higa. It's just, that's so fun. That's just, so fun. All right. Well, a couple of the ones that we liked, Frex stole all my friends. Yes. A couple of the ones we liked were GIFs. Like Quill waving. And there's a couple of them that I am not entirely well organized in life or anywhere else. And so a couple of them wound up in other folders. So one of them, like this little peak one here, where's the GIF? There is a GIF. Where goes peak? Oh, it's so cute. Peak. Well, you run into the trouble of, for the heck of it, I'm going to open another Blender so that I can, if I want to demonstrate things that don't work, I don't risk confusing myself over there. Video editing. If you can take a GIF and put it on here, but you wind up with a dot, and you're like, well, maybe I just need to change the blend setting or something else. And at least from what I have gathered, and certainly in older versions of Blender, it's because Blender won't unpack that GIF into frames for you the way other video editors like Kdenlive might. It's not going to unpack them, so you've got to do the unpacking. You've got to unpack it yourself. So there's a couple ways that you could do that. The one that came most convenient, and I know I'm on a Windows machine, so this is the command, Windows command.exe rather than bash, because I was working on my Linux box yesterday. But thankfully, FFmpeg does this handily in either environment. I think on my machine I might have used Convert, which uses ImageMagick behind the scenes under the hood, but FFmpeg does it basically the same way with pretty much the same commands, and it's ImageMagick I think is cross-platform too, but I don't happen to have that installed on this machine. Well, you were sleeping in my lap, buddy. Now you're being a nuisance again. And by nuisance, I mean he's pushing his cold little wet puppy nose. Well, he's not really a puppy. He's about the size of a puppy, though, because he's a small lad. You're a small lad. But I need both of my hands, bud. You don't even know what keyboards are. Your cute little face. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. Okay, you can sit there, but I need my hand. So, I took one of the GIFs and put it in here. I might have actually already unpacked it. Oh, I did not. Or if I did, I'd already deleted it. I put them in this test folder. I didn't. Okay. We've got Stump here. He's steering boards of keys. What are those, right? That's that thing I like to just smash my little dog nose up against sometimes because I'm sniffing at it. Oh, you're so cute, buddy. So, I can throw that GIF in there and it's just not going to do anything for me. But, you can unpack that GIF by saying f of impeg I for input, and you can put multiple inputs in if you're trying to combine things, but in this case we're trying to uncombine something, so we say I, give it the name of the GIF, space, and then your last parameter is the output, stump %02D, and you can change this. This is a little pattern describing where the numbering and how the numbering is going to be. In this case, I know I don't have more than 99 frames in that GIF, so I'm just saying 2 decimals, left padded with zeros. So the format, left pad with zeros, 2 decimals, dot PNG. So unpack that GIF into a bunch of pings. I go like that, and there they are. There's every single frame in that GIF unpacked. So, conveniently, in Blender, so I'll use this one since I had already set this up for demonstration purposes and I just forgot that I did. If I throw the GIF in there, I got nothing. But if I go add image sequence, I can go and select my images in my sequence, and there he is. There he is doing his thing. Doing his thing. Now, you could run into the situation where the frame rate may not be close enough for your tastes, and you may need to make other adjustments. One of the simpler adjustments that you might wind up doing is the effect strip of speed control, which will let you do like whoop, and now he's slower. Of course, eventually his frame rate will get chonky if I try to slow him down too much. But for a quick fix on something where you don't have to worry too much about having everything all precisely framed, perfect, whatever. That can work pretty good. And like, well, now I'm using up 2 tracks and it kind of looks ugly and it's kind of busy on my screen. Well, if you do them up like that, and I'm sure there's a context menu for it. There's probably 5 different ways you can get this to happen, but if you've got them both selected and you Control G for group, it puts them like that. And now you've still got your time stretch buried inside there, but now they're both on the one track for simplicity's sake, because you know you're not going to go back in there and change that time stretch thing. And also, so you've got them like this. I'm like, yeah, but now I stretch him out and he just freezes at the end. What's up with that? I want him to loop. Well, you can duplicate them with Shift D to duplicate, Shift duplicate D, as many times as you like, to have them do that as many times as you like. Highlight them all. Control G to group them back together, and now you've got a meta strip of meta strips. You have the group together ones, and you've got that, and I go like this, and he does his little dance. He does his little steering his boat. All right. Well, his ship. So I did stuff like that a few different times whenever I had an animated one that I wanted to use. Frex's was nice and simple because it's only 2 frames. And for Frex's, I think I didn't even bring them in as an image strip. I brought them in as 2 separate images, stretched them out to be so that the frames took a little bit, and then grouped them and did the Shift D thing to make a whole bunch of them and then grouped them all together. So you get them in here, and now you've got kind of once you get stuff in place, the heavier work of this, I may be preaching to the choir on it, but that's all right, because I'm really going over a lot of this just to expand it in my own mind. Having gone through it, one track, 2 lanes. 2 lanes, 1 track. Oh, I love it. About the song. Oh, the song. Oh, the song. I forgot. I actually I had thought, you know what? I'll start off talking about the song, and then I forgot to start off talking about the song. There. Beatbox. That's where I made the song. So I don't know. This beatbox is one of those things that somebody mentioned it. I think it was it wasn't Lily Hopkins. It was Goki Dev, who does dev streams where he does video game development and also does variety streaming games and such. Goki had mentioned that he likes music. He likes the idea of making music, but he had never really enjoyed the act of making music. And then he found beatbox, and he realized that it wasn't the making music itself that had made that failed to appeal to him. It was the interfaces, used the software interfaces that he had available for making music. And when he found beatbox, it really jived with him. So beatbox is wildly configurable. This is the default view that you come into, and I'm not advanced enough to have expanded my horizons beyond the default view or the default number of instrument tracks. You've got, your kind of bars here. Each one starts out saying number 1. You're like, oh, number 1 and a bunch of zeros. All right, you've got this little bar down here. You can make it longer. You can make it go like that, and that's going to be which bit's going to play. So you see, oh, I don't have any notes on the screen, but there it goes. It's playing. I could put a note on the screen. I could put another. There we go. All right. We're doing a raindrop. So up there, we've got a rain dropping. Down here, I don't even know what instrument selected. I'm just going to start making noise. Da, 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 da. Ha! Ba, ba. Ha! All right. We're like, that's a brass synth. Wow, look at all these things. Look at all these. There are so many instruments, and you can get custom instrument definitions and import definitions. For the silly, let's go theremin. So you can customize the instrument. Oh my lands, there are so many things down here. I don't even know what they all do. Fade in and fade out was obvious enough. I was able to fiddle with that and figured it out. So theremin is a customized harmonics. Come to find out. So, well, what if I wanted it to start getting more complex when it came over here? What if I wanted it to go like this and make a whole lot more noise? And I only want it to loop these two. There. So that's I opened up Beatbox here, and I put together a little song, and you've got instruments up there by default, and by default you've got instruments up above, and regular instruments and percussion instruments down at the bottom. You've got a bunch of different percussion instruments you can switch from. There's standard drum set, which gives you different instruments at different points. Wait. Got that going on up there. So, and this one also has the 1 through, what is it, 9, 8, 0? 1 through 0. So you've got more or less, 10 of them that you can pick from. And then this you can expand to go out here and beyond. You can have as many as you like going in that direction. One of the fun things about this, and the text describes it all, but one of the fun things is that as you change things here, stuff's happening up above. I wasn't paying enough attention to notice if any of my changes had changed the stuff to the left here, but stuff's changing. The whole song, any song that you make in Beatbox, the entire song is encoded in the URL. So I can take that, just go like that, I'm like, oh no! My Beatbox. Oh man, my million tabs that I opened. Close all those. My Beatbox but it's on my clipboard. You go back like that. The whole song is in there. So you can, to save a song, a work in progress, you just save the URL. So there's There's no save in here, there's copy the URL. But if you want to use that song elsewhere, you can import a song. That's another thing you can do. You can import a song, which I haven't actually re-imported as JSON. Oh, JSONs, right, JSON files, handy format. But if you want to use that song in other things, I mean, you could try to like record your desktop audio or whatever, but you can export the song. You can give it a name. Some sounds. I'm gonna call it some sounds. It can have an intro, it can have an outro if you like. You can tell it how many times to loop through your thing here in the file that gets generated. I'm not gonna worry about that because if I want it to loop or need it to loop, I'll just loop it in whatever my downstream environment is. And you can do MP3, MIDI, JSON, HTML. I'm gonna go wave, just because that's kind of just where I put things. I would not like to open it in Groove Music, thank you. We're just gonna save. Somesounds.wave has been created. It's in my massively unorganized downloads folder. It's actually Frex's massively disorganized downloads folder. But most of the disorder in there is probably because of me. I don't think I have a separate folder for... Let me go to my personal default view, the details view. There we go. So I've got somesounds.wave. Is that tune coming across? The power of the clipboard, right? So powerful, unleash the power. Powerful enough to move data between remote desktop sessions even if you're not supposed to. I shouldn't say not supposed to. Most places that haven't closed that gap know well enough, but if you open an RDP session to a remote desktop, there are plenty of network admins who don't realize that the clipboard by default is shared between those remote desktop sessions, and you can move massive amounts of information, really bizarrely large amounts of information back and forth by opening up something in whatever, a text editor or whatever, putting it all in copying it all to the clipboard, going to your destination machine, and pasting it into a blank file. Anyhow. On the tune. So space, if it's got focus. Oh no. Space, pause and unpause, you've got your skip forward and back. I'm just saying some of these things because I know some folks, like, not to discourage you there, Frex, but some folks have kind of a difficult time picking stuff up without a manual. And I'm sure there's a manual here, but this is all stuff that I just figured out from, oh yeah, that makes sense. I did it and it made sense. And so I'm just going to say it out loud because it made sense to me implicitly, but I don't know if it'll make sense to everyone else. So space is to pause and start. Z, not Control Z as you might be habituated to, just Z is undo. Y is redo. If you hold shift and click somewhere, you do get this up. And C to oh yeah, and the shortcuts are in here, in the menu. You got them shown here. C is to copy a pattern, which can be handy. Say I want to come over here and do a 3. Well, now I can go edit, paste pattern. Not that there's a lot to this pattern, but you can see if it was more complicated, it should be handy. Paste pattern. And now I've got a 1, 2, and a 3. Let's see, what else? Oh, one thing that some folks mentioned took them quite a bit to figure out was you can change the fade in. You can see that little, I'm gonna focus it in so it just loops here. It's got this fade in. There's a fade in and a fade out. Melodious. To get it to do that, you click in the space above your note and then drag down. You can drag left or right to change where the pinch point is. Drag down, drag up, and then let go. Let's see. Oh, another fun thing this can do is if you grab I'm gonna make a long one here. We're gonna make a long lad so we can be extra silly with it. If I make a long note, I'm gonna change the instrument to something that makes kind of more of a steady sound. Raindrops are pretty, but let's go. Distortion guitar, Ruzam. We all just folks. Oh no, it's me, I'm folks. It's me, I'm folks, Ruzam. We all just folks now. So button, how long before you just write into the URL to make the music instead of using the UI? You can do this here, right? You can grab it and go. If you want to freestyle, you're going to have to capture your desktop audio. If you're going to freestyle these, if you're going to slide it. But it does support this. It does support the slide. You can mess with the middle of the slide if you want. You can mess with the middle of the slide in the middle of the slide if you want. Yeah. So that's the real basics of using Beatbox. Oh, and you can freehand, or you can use your standard triplets, six per segment, 8 per segment. If I do it up to 8, I can. Oh my gosh. I can go real small. I can make it, little tiny chunks. We can make like a little bit of madness at the end. Ha. And you've got your beats per minute. Or real slow. Right. All right. So that's how I got the song. I listened to freeform jazz. Yeah, Higa, totally freeform jazz. And you can make kind of freeform stuff with it. A little fun, like it is one purpose for reason that I had like recorded from desktop audio at one time, not for anything that I put in a project, but just for my own fun. I recorded it from the desktop audio rather than using the file export. It was because I wanted to capture the fiddling around, the freeform side of it, of like doing the slides and shifting the notes as it passed through them, because I thought it was fun. There's only so much you can do because you can only grab one note section here, and the whole section moves with you. So if you've defined a harmony and you want to fiddle around with that while it's going, you can, but you can only have one per in each instrument. So you could have the same instrument twice and have different patterns on that same instrument, but you can only have one style of size of note per section. I'm sure there's better ways to describe that. There's probably much better words for it, but I'm not great at correct definitions. That's how I got the song. I listened to the Chicken Dance on YouTube. I don't remember which one. It was just whatever came up from Chicken Dance. And I made a song that reminded me of Chicken Dance and wasn't quite exactly Chicken Dance. And I've got the URL somewhere. I probably saved it in my saved messages on a messenger or something. I have too many windows open down here. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need the program files open. Go on. Be gone. Oh, that was the program links section in the start menu. I'm sorry. We don't need that. We don't need that. There we go. So I did that. I exported it as a wave. Chicken Dance. .wave. Decided I wanted to change some stuff and did it again as Chicken Dance 2.wave. And then I just dropped it in here. So that's as easy as going, let's say, some sounds.wave. Boop. And just like, boop. The default when you drop a file, rather than using the add, or I think even when you use the add, but the default spawn location for your file, I'm sure there's a better word again, is wherever your time cursor is at the lowest available slot that file will fit into. So if you've got a whole bunch of stuff, like in the other project over here, I got a whole bunch of stuff. If I've got my cursor here and I wanted something to land here, it will push it up until it finds a track that it has enough free space for it to fit on. So I would have to make sure that my cursor is over far enough that there's room for it to fit when you do the insert. But you drop it in there, you can slide it around. 1 is the start of the rendering. So you get your stuff lined up with 1 there. Now we've got Stump. Stump is steering to the tunes. I looked like 3 times. Like, that is Stump, right? Is that Stump on my screen? Am I looking at Stump? So let me go back into here. So I got that, and I started off with, in my head, the first thing I just had was, wouldn't it be funny if Frex was in a chicken coop and she had a little BRB sign that she turned on when she had to go somewhere for a bit, and then she would leave. But then I'm like, well, what do I do with the chicken coop? Well, we could have friends popping up in and out. So I have Frex walk up to the corner here where the light switch presumably is inside and turn on the BRB sign. She's like, I'm going to be right back. And I had her walk out. Well, you can see up in this little thing up here, which does not show up by default, but to get it to show up, you just go up here and turn on your timeline view. You can switch to timeline view. So let's see, I think I have the other project, the default. The default here, which can be super handy if you're like, okay, I need to get all my assets in place, is this file folder looking view. I forget the name of it, whatever it's called. File browser view. But if you switch to timeline, it'll go to timeline, or you can switch it back to file browser. It's one of the things that I think folks who are early to Blender and would like to launch into creating something, rather than you could spend a long time if you really wanted to, learning the ins and outs of just how to manipulate Blender's interface. Because Blender's interface is a pile of putty. You can change anything and everything on it. So like the default view up here just happens to be the video editing view. I could change this. And if I didn't know that to change it back, I just click on video sequence, I could be in none and be like, oh, my file is screwed up. That's it. I'm done. I'm done for. I might as well start over. I don't know how to make that go back. Like when you first open Blender, you might not know. Like you might not know that this is also optional. You could take this over here, the properties, and put it here in the middle. If you're some kind of mad person, or properties, and put your video, where's the video one? Put your video sequencer over there, and put the video editor over here. I've forgotten what that one was called already. Anyway, whatever that one was. Image editor, why not? Just for madness. Hey, how's it going, Doug? Dog the Fox. Good to see ya. Reform Jazz says he got that stuff. Oh, good. Yes. The ladder of vlogs. So you can see how. Oh man! And now that I've changed this one, I've forgotten which one was in the middle. Oh, which one did I have in the middle? It wasn't editor. Timeline, graph, nope, outlines, properties, file, assets. Oh, which one was it? Oh, you know what? I'll look at the one that I've got set up the way that I like. Oh, in preview mode. Okay, so we've got that in preview. That in preview. No. Video sequencer, there we go. Video sequencer preview. And then these others, you set them to whatever you like. Anyhow, so I switched this over to timeline editor. And another thing about these editors that might confuse some folks, especially folks who haven't used an editor of this sort, because this is fairly standard among media editors that have a timeline of any sort, is the bar that folks may be so used to being a solid object that the idea of it changing, other than the auto changing, like to show the scale of what is shown in the selected area, might throw some folks for some loop. But you can change the amount of the timeline that is represented in your view by clicking on the edge of your bar, which you can do accidentally many times. You can click on the edge of that bar and change how many frames worth of your video you're looking at once. So we've got all that. When you're in any one view here, any of these views, they all use the same basic visual keyboard to mouse setup here. Regular scroll will zoom you in and out. on Blender, scroll wheel in the middle, zoom in and out. Shift scroll will zoom you, or zoom will scroll you up and down. Regular scroll zooms, shift scroll up and down, control scroll left to right. Control scrolling takes you left to right. That's not universal outside of Blender. It's similar outside of Blender, but other environments will sometimes have it set up, like a lot of image editors, I think. If sometimes it's hard to remember key commands when you don't have the software loaded up in front of you in your brain. But Blender and I believe other image editors commonly use control scroll to zoom in and out and shift scroll to go left to right. So here shift scrolls up and down, control scrolls left and right, and regular scrolls in and out. So that's one of those little differences. The dog has set his mouth, his chin on top of my hand, my keyboard hand. He's just resting on my keyboard hand. He's just like, he's trying to give me some kind of Goku, Piccolo type, extra training here. He's like Yoda on my back, like do a flip. Do your keyboard commands with my dog nose on your hand. Go ahead, do it. I will, buddy. Don't tempt me. You're cute. Give him head scratches. Give him head scratches. He's a good dog. All right, buddy. I need that hand. All right, we'll do it with one hand for now. So we're just going to use the mouse. All right, that's fine. Everything in here can be done with just the mouse. I'm at work, so I cannot stay, but have fun. Aw. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate your stopping by. Sorry, I'm a little slow on replying there. The two monitors here, I guess I could look at the mouse on the one monitor, but chat's in the way. Oh, chat's kind of hiding some of it. Thinking of, you might not have seen one specific bit of it because chat was there. So I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna unleash the madness and switch this over to the timeline editor. Timeline. Select something that should show up on the timeline editor. We've got your summary here. It's like there's nothing in my timeline editor. This is actually just as well of a thing to use for showing this. Oh, I need something to show us a visual, or we're gonna be like, we're not gonna have anything to attach our brain to. Video sequence preview. There we go. So I got the preview up over there. There's Stump driving, steering. So we've got summary, and there's nothing here in the timeline. We'll go back to our start. And I'm going to put something in there. So I'm just going to describe all this as if I were describing it to me at pretty much any point, because I could forget any of this at a moment's notice. And all of your different things down here, any little thing that you can record a keyframe value on. So time doesn't have that because you can't set keyframes for when the start and stop are. That's implicit outside of the scope of what a keyframe would help you with. But anything like transformation positions, scale, rotation, the origin point of your image on the screen, which at the moment is just the center of mass for the image file. And I say that very specifically, center of mass for the image file, because if you have free blank alphaed out space above, below, or beside your image, the center of rotation, or your origin point, may be up here in the corner or over here or something, depending on how much free space you've got wherever. In this case, we're working off of a GIF rendered to a bunch of pings, put back into an image sequence that behaves like a GIF, in such a way that the center of mass is right in the middle of the actual image itself. So we don't have to worry about that. So we've got the image there. But let's say, so right now he's there. Let's say he starts out big, and we want him to get small and kind of bounce around like a screensaver. So at first I want to record the fact that he's living at position 0, 0, and that his scale is set to 1, 1. And this is like the scale of the screen itself at whatever size, and I forget the default project size here. It was like 19 something. And rotation, sure, because we might rotate them a little bit later. So anything that you're going to change at some point, if you want it to know that it started out one way and ended up another, you've got to record a keyframe that says where it started, how it started. So I'm going to start there. We'll let the world get used to the fact that he wiggles. Oh, he's wiggling. He's driving. So he's going to stay like that. So I'm going to record the fact that he stayed like that this whole time. All the way up to this frame, he stayed just that way. And you can see it creates these little bars. Makes it real easy for you to tell. If there's a bar between one indicator and the other, then the value did not change between those two. So all right. Now it still shows him wiggling, even though I didn't record anything. It's just going to stay wherever you left it last. So if you don't change something, it'll just stay there. So we've got Stump there. So now I'm going to have him get small so he's got some room. He's got some wiggling room. The keyboard commands in Blender are often context sensitive, and when a lot of folks, at least I said, when I think of context sensitive, I'm habituated to thinking of my context menu, my right-click mouse menu, which a lot of folks will call the right-click mouse menu. It's also on most standard English keyboards. It can be triggered with the button to the right or to the left. My gosh, to the left of the right control key. There's a context menu button there. I don't know if everybody knows that, but depending on where your hands happen to be and what kind of menu you want to pop up, that can be the fastest way to get your context menu to show up. And in Blender, that menu will appear wherever your mouse happens to be. That's not universal to other programs. Blender is programmed that way. A lot of other programs are programmed that way, but some of them aren't. Some of them will have it just pop up in like the upper left corner of the screen because they don't bother positioning the menu to where the mouse is prior to acting on the key press. But the context menu that pops up, and I think you can see, is sensitive to where the mouse happens to be floating at the time. And I've been pressing the keyboard to make that pop up here. So whether you do it with the mouse or the keyboard, what happens from the keys that you press depends on where your mouse happens to be floating, not what you've clicked on last, but where your mouse is floating. What you clicked on last also changes the way that some things behave. So you have to be conscious of what have I clicked on and where is my mouse. But I want to come over here. I'm going to scale Stump. So that's S on the keyboard. Somewhere in these menus, you can make scale happen. I'm not sure where. So I'm going to S scale him, make him a little bit smaller. And now I'm like, okay, I have scaled him. His position didn't change, so I don't need to record keyframes, but I do want him to stay exactly where he was while he does the scaling. So if I change his position later, but I don't record the fact that his position did not change at this point, then he will actually wind up sliding while he's scaling. So I'm going to say, all right, he stayed in place. You can see up here, he stayed in place during this time period. But I'm also going to have him change scale. Now there's no line between here and here because the value changed. Position did not change. It drew a line for us. Value here changed on the scale X and scale Y, so it did not draw a line. And we can see him go whoop. Whoop. All right. Now we're going to have them move around a bit. So we'll come up here, a few frames. I'm being real unscientific about this. I'm floating over here. It's sensitive to what I have clicked on and where my mouse is. I press the letter G for grab to move him around. The grab tool, move him with the grab tool. Have him bounce down here to the lower left-hand corner like a Stump screensaver. Now I'm not going to bother recording scale again because I'm not going to change his scale. After this point, I'm just going to leave him at this scale. I think it's a fine scale. We'll have him slide along the bottom, like he's driving along the bottom. Oop. We'll record a position here. We'll have him bounce off of that corner, fly up here. Forgot to move this. Move this over here. All right. Have him bounce off that corner and fly up to here. I'll have him go up here. Oop. And we'll record that. And then his time on the timeline has ended at that point. We could give him more time, duplicate this and stretch it out or whatever. But that's enough, I think, for the demonstration here. And that's it, Oh, we can get rid of this GIF that doesn't actually render anything on the screen. Shift, click to select multiple items, or shift and click and drag to select multiple items. I'm going to drag them down and make sure they still start at frame 1. And where's the button? Where's the button? I hit play. There he goes. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So how fast things move around is entirely up to you. You can also play it in reverse if you're feeling silly. There he goes and back. It does not play the audio in reverse. I understand why. I think it would be funny if it did, but it doesn't. Uh-oh. Chicken of the Hair has mentioned that chat is blocking stuff. don't think chat blocked anything too permanently. Like, I mean, it's gonna block stuff. Sure you can. He bounces around behind chat. Yeah, but you can see him there. We're showing off the transparency of the overlay. Delicious transparency. Here, I'll switch this one. I'll switch the big one temporarily over to video sequencer. All right, here we go. Play him in reverse. Play him forward. In reverse. Forward. Wiggle him around all willy-nilly. Climb up the wall. Okay. So I mentioned, if you're in an editor and you press G to activate your grab tool, you can wiggle stuff around. If you hold shift, you move things more slowly. And I'm sure folks who are used to the way that mice operate, graphic input tools operate, in most GUIs, in almost all GUIs, I don't think there's any that do this by default except Blender and maybe a couple of other obscure software programs. When I dragged Stump here, my mouse didn't get to the corner of the screen and then stop. So if you hold shift, you can do things more slowly. Shift will let you do more fine-tuned adjustments in the GUI. And it helps demonstrate this. In Blender, your mouse will wrap and you can just keep going in whatever direction you want it to go. And your mouse will just keep wrapping. So that's a way, so you don't have to let go and pick it back up and let go and pick it back up and let go and pick it back up. If you're moving something around the screen and you want to just keep moving it, but you want to like do it, I'm holding shift in, so he moves more slowly. If I let go of shift, he moves quickly. Where'd he go? Come back. There he is. There. And so you don't have to hold G, and you press G to activate the grab tool, and you've got to hold him. You can press escape to cancel whatever you were working on. That's pretty universal, I think. Yeah. One thing that I really don't expect just about anybody to do, and you may not have to do it this way to use this feature, but if you're, say, rendering, if you go to render your animation and it's stuck, one thing to keep in mind is, and I'm not sure if Windows boy, this may not be helpful to folks outside of the Linux environment, but if you've opened this up in Bash, or in any console really, if you've opened Blender in a console, and again, I'm not sure if Windows will cancel the whole app, but at least in Bash, if you Control-C at the command line, it will not exit the application the way most applications are programmed to handle a Control-C input signal. The signal will actually cause it to stop whatever action it was currently working on. So if you've got a render that's taking forever, or it's stuck, or you've realized that this is going to take 5 more minutes, but I actually needed to change something, you can just Control-C it there, and the render will stop. So there's the real simple basics, real high-level basics of doing one thing's animation. And you can see the keyframes up here for Frex. So which keyframes show up depends on what you've got selected down here on the timeline. There's no keyframes for any of the coop bits because they don't move. They're just there. But there's keyframes there. And some changes will give you little graphic hints. Like up here, I've got transparent glow BRB, which Frex made. Frex made that sign for me in, I think, Krita. She just put picked a good font and picked a glow effect here to create a alpha transparent layer behind it for a glow effect. But you can see the transparency levels showing up as spikes on the timeline there. Very handy. So let's see. I'm going to switch this over to showing the timeline. No. What do I have? Oh, I know. I'll just go like this. There we go. Nope. 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 Hey, Stump. Got Stump in the background there. So we've got where was I? Oh, right, Frex timeline. Where are you, Frex? There. There. Got the keyframes in there. But then if I also shift click and select that, now we've got the keyframes for both items, so you can kind of see where the keyframes are on the timeline in relation to each other when they overlap and what have you. We got blend object. We got translate X, translate Y, translate X, translate Y, frex. Make this a little wider so you can kind of read. We got translate X and Y, frex, sequence timeline, scale X and Y, frex, sequence timeline, and blend opacity for the transparent glow, blah, 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 transparent glow, brb.png. Give it that little flicker that some signs have. She walks off, and and there's the Georgie peak, peeking up. So I took Georgie's GIF, and rather than using the GIF, I cut off Georgie's head. I took Georgie's head and their hands, and I put them on separate images, and I did an animation thing where the hands show up, and then the head kind of like they're like they're pulling themselves up on the ledge, right? So she's peeking out the window, but she's got to pull herself up on a ledge to do it. And then she peeks back down and then takes her hands off the ledge just as Quill comes up out of the corner waving. And Gucci comes from the background, peeks up, like, oh, and there she goes. Vera does a little dance. Clover's like, oh, what's happening? What's this Jawa doing in the chicken coop or something? She was surprised before Martini even showed up. So she's just in a permanent state of surprise. Martini shows up, Lucky shows up, Gate. So, but this is all just repetitions of the same simple principles of managing the timeline and the keyframes. Switch this back to the timeline. Timeline. Where are you? There. Oh, also, and I haven't memorized them yet, but I'm sure in time I will. Thankfully, conveniently, all of the key bindings for these toggles are just right there. If you're like, man, I don't like the feeling of having an unhealthy rat dependency, which is how I've seen at least some. Oh, Georgie, hi, Peak. Oh, I love that emote. Hi, Dia. Polpeto Games. Yeah, it is. Peter says it's always nice when stuff like that has visual cues. And that's something that I've appreciated about. Oh, man, I'm way behind on chat. All right, not too way behind, just a little. Everybody's taking notes. Something I really appreciate about the team, the folks, the minds who have gone into formulating the GUI for Blender here is that they have made sure that you always have the opportunity to observe when something has happened. When something that you've done has made something happen, somewhere on the screen there is an indication that something has happened, and you can familiarize yourself with what those cues are and you can get a better idea of, or get like more in tune with your work that way. So you can, an unhealthy rat dependency was a term I saw at least on some forums for GUIs, not just for GUIs, but for users who don't know how to operate their software without the use of a mouse. And this was, of course, on an old, way back, an old Linux forum where somebody was complaining that a user was asking for how to do something in the GUI instead of just accepting the answer that somebody else had given them about some obscure bash command that they could type in that was like, 800 characters long and whatever. It wasn't 800. It was a pretty short command, whatever it was. But still, I thought it was funny, and it's stuck in my head ever since. Unhealthy rat dependency for not knowing how to do stuff without using the mouse. So, thankfully, programs like this, a lot of programs do. Oh no. I feel attacked. Sorry. No, it's not me, I swear, it was them. I only learned like 4 shortcuts for Sony Vegas after like 10 years of using it. Sometimes, like, being in tune with the mouse is the way to go for your workflow. Like, way back, I used Autodesk quite a lot, and when I was in school, in high school, and in college, I used Autodesk quite extensively. And I suppose folks might not know that's it's more than just drafting software. There's a massive amount of design and manufacturing related software tied in under the Autodesk hood. But wow, it's a shame Potato says, wow, it's a shame I have to right click and hit cut. And then I learned you can just push S. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, even in just text editors, folks will be in here in Notepad++, or, okay, no, we got to start more basic. They'll be in Notepad or something. And what do we have here? Game list, OMG. Oh, and here's the talk configs for Scorched Earth. All you got to do is change the text in these talk configs, and you get different text for your tanks. That's something I want to do before the next Stoop Squirrel Sunday. I want to get more up-to-date, funny low tank text. So if you're in your text editor, and folks who have, I'm so new to computers, I just started using them 5 years ago. Months makes me new, right? 5 years, noob. So and they're like, oh, I wanna copy this, and they're like, oh, I did that with the keyboard. I didn't mean to. I meant to show my mouse skills. And so they go like that, and they're like, edit, copy, you know. And then eventually they realize that they can right click on it and go copy, and like, oh wow. And then eventually they realize that they can go Control C to copy, and like, oh man. And then if they are either accidentally, or if they are coming from long ago computers or whatever, or they just want to optimize and they're like, you know, my left hand was doing something else. I was busy with my left hand typing ASDF over and over again, and I wanted to use my right hand. They realize they can go Control Insert, and Control Insert is a carryover from all the way back into like DOS days. Control Insert and Control Delete or Shift Delete to cut. Shift Insert is paste, by the by. You got Shift Insert for paste, Control Insert for copy, Shift Delete for cut. So if your there you go. If you didn't know that, if your hand is over there on the right hand side because you use those control keys a lot, like my home row is literally having my hands on the corners of my keyboard because I use control keys way more than the other keys. And if I had my fingers all the way over in the middle away from those control keys, I would be like, why am I so far away from home? My control keys are so far. My pinky's going to get so tired. No. But yeah, so it's set up that way. And at least I don't remember if it was ever formally codified in the IBM design standards or in Microsoft's design standards, but there is almost universally always at least 3 ways to do anything. And 2 of those ways are going to be relatively simple keyboard commands or mouse menu commands. And then 1 or more ways are going to be more complex or more obscure keyboard commands that will get the job done for you. Wow. So using our keyboard commands and our mice and our menus, we have set up a timeline for any one little thing. And we have used that to create all this. It's a whole bunch of simple things done over and over again in relatively simple ways. And the layers, I didn't say this out loud, but I promised myself that I would say things, even if they seemed simple to me right now, I would say them as if I were explaining them to myself later on when I've forgotten how it all works. So when you first drop an image on here, I'm just going to drop another copy of somebody on here. What are we going to grab? We're going to grab friend emotes. Who's the last person to chat? Ruzam. Ruzam, I don't have an icon for you. Potato, I don't have an icon for you. Man, I'm dropping the ball. Higa's got a really colorful one. Anyway, so all right, we're going to drop. I love that expression. It's so silly. It's so Squidward. Drop Higa on here. And the first place that had space was track 4, so it put him down here. I'm going to move him up to make it more obvious what it just did that I'm going to want to change. And you can see that this right side, this little thick bar on the side is highlighted. That means that this is currently in stretch mode to extend the right-hand side of your clip. So anytime you click anywhere near here and do that, it's going to extend it instead of moving the clip. So I'm going to unselect and click back on it so it gets out of extend mode so I can reposition the clip and put them up here. Everything on my scene disappeared. I know full good and well that Higa has transparency. The trouble is that the blend mode is set to cross by default here, and all we have to do is change that to alpha over, bam. And now he is over everything in the background, so it's going to look behind him when the engine decides in the preview and in the final render. It will look, when it sees an alpha layer, it will say, well, okay, what's behind that alpha layer that I should be letting come through? So we've dropped Higa on there, just for the purposes of demonstrating that alpha layer thing. There's one other thing that I was a little learning experience. What's something that I forgot, because I 3D modeling and animation I've done as a periodic, very kind of off and on again side thing since high school, where I worked on exploring what was it called, Cinema 4D, which was the software used for the modeling and rendering of Babylon 5, one of my favorite sci-fi shows. So Cinema 4D was the software we had in high school, but we didn't have it until my senior year, well, tail end of my junior year. Anyway, I've been doing off and on 3D stuff since then, but only little fidgety stuff, like I've got Blender installed on my computer and I know how to render a sphere type basic stuff. But I should have known well enough and knew well enough to recognize what went wrong, to know that this was going to happen with Higa. See, Higa fly in, simple enough, and then he does a somersault. Like, what the heck? Why is Higa doing somersaults? And I left it in because I thought it was great, because the icon is round, and being all wobbly like that is fun. Oh, big jump. Sorry, buddy. I didn't realize you wanted down. I haven't learned his signals for, hey, can I get out of your lap now? You're a good pop. Look at that waggy tail. Look at that waggy tail. So I'm gonna click on Higa, and I'm gonna squish up the preview thing and expand our timeline. We can still see Higa there. We can see our timeline. Now we've got to find where. There's probably a keyboard shortcut for this, but where? There we go. I'm like, where does Higa happen on the timeline? So moving our bar around and make sure we can see all of Higa's action. Okay. So you can click to move where in time your current preview is showing you and where in time your current actions are being applied. You can click up on the ruler, and this is fairly universal in GUI environments that have a timeline editor. I don't suspect there's a formalized universal standard like ISO whatever, but it's something that folks have kind of settled on because it makes sense once you realize what's going on. You click on the ruler to move when you're editing. Well, we've got two different rulers. There's the one down here that's moving you around at the scale and precision that this makes available to you, depending on how zoomed in and out you are. You also got this one right up here, which is real handy. So you can use the ruler in this timeline, and both rulers stay in lockstep with each other. Boy, they're really partying in there. Higa and Crab just like dancing or facing off. I'm not sure what's going on there. They're partying though. To move around. So I've got Querno selected. I'm like, why are these showing me bars? I've got Querno selected again, as I said earlier, and forgot to pay attention to. There we go. What's showing up here is what's selected down here. So now I've got Higa's keyframes showing here. Here's where they come on the scene. Up, slide down in the back of the room. Whoop, zoom up to the front. If I wanted to, and if I were taking even more time on this, I would have applied some sort of a visual transform to have Higa's be shadowed from being in the back of the room, since clearly there's a shadow back there, and then have that shadow come off as he comes toward the front where there's better lighting. But there's only so much time in the day, and a lot of this stuff I learned as I went. I couldn't tell you which things because I have a terrible memory for when I learned what. But I think a lot of this stuff I learned yesterday or the day before. Relearned, I should say, or consolidated the knowledge into a functional space. Because like I was saying, the timeline editing, a lot of the way timelines are handled is very similar across different programs because it's just the most efficient way to do something. Like the way that you hold a spoon, people will gravitate toward holding, or a cup. people will generally hold a cup about the same way because we don't all, by default, the default configuration for human children and adults, as long as they haven't had horrible accidents, is to have 4 fingers and a thumb, arranged on a hand. So we gravitate toward what works, and it works pretty much the same in GUIs here. We've gravitated toward what works, like laying down a track in time, some kind of cosmic doctrine stuff there. That these editing standards, functions, and features kind of gravitate toward similar stuff. So Higa flies in, and then he starts doing somersaults. So things are changing between here and here, which is obvious, but they're not changing in quite the way I wanted them to. So down here, you can see it does update the numbers of like the rotation. Is that visible? Nope, I'm completely hiding that. Hold on, let me move something. Maybe I'll just go like this. We don't need that much room. Yeah, there we go. That'll work. The numbers down in the properties pane for the selected object properties down there. What is this pane actually called? There's a name for it. What are you? Huh. Maybe it comes part and parcel with the sequence editor. I forget. But the numbers are changing as you go. Even though I'm not on a keyframe, you can see when you hit a keyframe because the little diamond lights up. Little sideways square. New Shreddies diamonds. That was Frex back in the day in Canada. They've got Shreddies cereal, right? It's a little, is it corn or wheat? Wheat? They're wheat squares, little standard wheat squares type breakfast cereal. And at one point they ran a big promotional campaign. Their campaign was new Shreddies. It was like, Higa there, he's a, come on, go right side up, man. I need to find a frame where he's right side up for my thing. Okay, so he's right side up. It's like Shreddies. Shreddies are squares. You're used to seeing them arranged like that on boxes. They're squares. And they were like, new Shreddies diamonds, and all their promotional material had the Shreddies turned on their side. They were the same Shreddies. They were just calling them Shreddies diamonds because they were turned on their sides in the promotional stuff. So anyway, the diamond goes solid when you're on a keyframe that has data recorded for it. But in between those frames, it does show you the values that it's sliding through. So on this keyframe, I had him positioned here, and I slid over in the timeline to here, and I just used the rotate tool, rotated him a little bit, and recorded another rotation position, 338 degrees. And over here, I was at 0, straight up and down. So I went from 0, and I just used the rotate tool, which is R. So you bring your mouse over so that it's in the right context-sensitive space. I've got Higa selected. If I had other people selected, I'd be rotating them all at once. I just want to rotate Higa, so I've got Higa selected. R. And all I did was I rotated him and recorded the rotational position. Except when it does the calculation here from 0 to 338, it decided that, for whatever reason, it decided that the way to do that would be to rotate him through the positive integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth, past 180 until you got to 338. You're like, well, what do you do? What's 360 minus 338? 22? 22. What you do is go, let's see if I did that right. Yeah. Negative 22. So, what did I do here? I might not have done this right. Did I forget to hit record? Yep, I did. Okay, so that's another thing to watch out for. If you change a value, just because you pressed enter, and I'm sure there's a color cue happening here. I'm red-green color deficient, so I have a hard time telling any colors that involve red, and I suspect that red is involved in whatever's going on down here. But I see that it's a little bit darker than these others, and I'm not sure if that was the same before. But you have to re-record your keyframe. Okay, it did change colors, didn't it? I was staring at it real close. I think it changed colors. So now it's like, 0 to negative 22. All right, 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative whatever. And it's just going to go the straight route from 0 to negative 22. So that's the thing, is by using the rotation tool, it had stayed in positive numbers. So if you find that that's causing your object to flip around entertainingly but incorrectly in circles, just try switching it around. Take 360, subtract the number that you've got, and and it'll do that. But it was a little more fun having them go all willy-nilly, so I'm going to put that back to I think it was 328. Yeah. It's 328 point something, but I didn't keep track of exactly what the decimal was. So there. So that's how you correct. And I had the same situation here. I had moved it. I had just recorded keyframes real quick, like using the rotation tool, and then went click, 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 recorded my keyframes, and then carried on with life. And I didn't realize until later when I put other people in and I was looking up at the preview pane that, wait, what is Higa? What? Higa, what are you doing? I was like, it's funny. It's great. He's a floating head. He can do what he likes. If he wants to spin around in circles, that's cool. I'm not going to judge him. Oh, man, I got to catch up on... Let me spin, says Higa. Yes. Shreddies are apparently only available in Canada and the UK. Oh, I didn't realize. I mean, we have Wheat Square cereal here in the States, and I had always just assumed that it was like rebranded the same thing. But that's pretty cool that they're like their own deal. I bet you can buy them on Amazon. Yeah. If a floating head spins around, I will judge them. Judge them as being rad. Yeah, Dia. Me too. That was it. Some folks I kept kind of simple. Ori's in a UFO, so I'm like, it doesn't, she's a free-flying alien. She's not going to be necessarily, I'm sure she comes in the coop now and again to say hi, but she's flying by saying hi, checking on things. Ruminant Moo came up, and I realized that I had just more or less accidentally put Ruminant Moo near where Ori came in, so I changed the position so that they were there. And being a cow, Ruminant Moo is, they've heard the stories. They're a little anxious about aliens, so they duck down a little bit and make sure that Ori's not coming to get them. So Moo ducks down and hides a little as Ori goes by. And then Ori flies off. It's okay. It's okay. She's not going to get you, man. We got more of that, and we got to the end. So another thing, and I'm going to stop and play games for a bit, I think. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach this part, but our next step for this, because we want to use this as a BRB screen, I'm going to play it here just because. So you can preview. To render this, it renders rather slowly because there's a lot of calculations going on here. And it's 1,336 frames of action. But the preview works just nice quick. You can like zoom in and look around while it's playing. Ah! There might be a setting to change this, but the viewport does not change its position to keep the current time indicator on screen. So if you want to keep an eye on where that little bar is, Woozle, let him toot. And then Frex comes back. He's like, oh, I'm back. I'll turn the light off. Turns the light off, and then comes and looks out the window. And then it just starts over. Preview mode loops indefinitely by default. That was something I didn't point out, that you can have multiple audio strips, and there are audio effects that you can apply to any one of your audio strips. One of the most basic ones is so I've got Woozle, Song of His People, which I extracted from when Woozle did a mic test on, I think Professor Bloom was hosting that collab, and it was beautiful. So I took that audio, threw it in here, and we have, using the standard conventions, we can tell what things can be keyframed. And, I've grouped this with something else. So once you've grouped something, you lose visibility to the keyframes. But I did... So it's less visible, but you can kind of see it in the graphic, in the tiny little graphic here. But I keyframed the volume level so that it would kind of fade out as Woozle faded. Who's this? I've got it scaled in too much to see Billy. There's Billy. Billy smiles. I didn't know which one to pick, so I went through Billy's emotes in Twitch. And pulled this one out because I thought it was fun. And I thought, well, I could put it outside. We don't have anything going on outside here except Ori flying by. I wanted to have a little something else. So I hope Billy doesn't mind that I used his emote here. And this gave an opportunity to show one of the fun things about having that alpha keyed transparency on a video in your OBS. I'm going to switch over. I'm going to show, we're going to have OBSception for a second here. I asked Freck, she said it was okay if I showed everybody inside her OBS. She cleaned this up so much. Oh my gosh. Kudos to how much Freck's cleaned this up. This was banankers for a while. And let's see, where do I have it? I don't have the rendered video even in here. All right, where's the rendered video? I thought I had one of these open in a more convenient way. View details, blocks. Oh, I'm in the friend emotes thing, that's why. Be our burb. Be right, burb. View the details, so my soft human brain has an easier time seeing the extensions file type. And not that this doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here, but in Windows, the file type as displayed by the Windows Explorer.exe program here, which has a lot of options that most folks will never even need to know exist. But this file type is based on the extension, but that's not necessarily the only thing that represents what a thing's file type is. There are often actually magic bytes, magic number bytes. There's a proper name for them. I forget what they are. In text, at least in text files, it's called the beginning of file marker, the BOM. But oh, thank you. But those bytes at the start of a file are also a way for file handlers to identify what the type is, regardless of what you happen to have given it as an extension. But this extension gets looked up in your system registry to see what the name for that extension is. And there's all kinds of places that can look for that. If it doesn't find it in one, it'll look in another. So let's see. The WebMs have the transparency, and the MP4 was an example that I recorded. So the burb sample use WebM, burb. Let's see. I think this was it. Let me try this one. I'm going to drop it down here. Oh, we're in studio mode, yeah? Oh, oh! There she is. There she goes. Oh, Vera! Now that I'm looking over here, I see chat. Chat has made its way into my tiny little squirrel brain. Hey, Vera. It's great to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Taking notes. I've gone over in rapid and scrambled squirrel-like succession all of the steps involved in putting this little video together. All the way up through updating Blender, because Blender on this computer was an older version and refused to open my .blend file, so we did that. So the usefulness of having a WebM that has transparency is OBS does not, and I love OBS, it's great, but we all know that sometimes it's easy to confuse and you can make it crash on you. So I'm going to change that so that it loops. Loop. There. But having a video file with transparency, like the convenience of having those transparent GIFs, is you can have stuff. See if I can grab myself. Is that me? Yeah. Move around in front of it, or behind it, and be seen through it. Like you can see me through the individual little pieces of the stepladder made of sticks. So if you have something like this and you want it to be part of a bigger scene, if you've rendered it in a container format that, or in an encoder that supports alpha transparency in the way that OBS can understand. There are some video formats that support alpha transparency in ways that certain players do or don't understand. I haven't come across any video formats that say they support transparency that OBS does not understand how to show that, how to handle the transparency for. None of the standard ones anyway. The QuickTime, the WebM, VP9 type formats. So you've got that transparency, so she can layer other things in her scene that come and go or swing by or whatever behind that, and you've got the transparency. Like, there she goes, running in front of me, right past me, just blocking. So that's the benefit of having that. So when I did the little demo video, That's why I had the Frex taking notes, was just so that I could show that off, the fun of having alpha transparency on your video source. Oh, and I wanted to say that a benefit of having a pre-rendered WebM is the same sort of benefit as why Final Fantasy VII had pre-rendered full video stuff. It was the videos that were rendered from 3D. I'm not saying like the static backgrounds that were painted in whatever way. I forget if they used 3D animation, 3D modeling to build the backgrounds that they had as snapshots that you moved around on. But the rendered video is you don't have to render it live. OBS does not have to have even a reference scene. And I know you can embed scenes in scenes. I don't know if folks have done that, but you can embed scenes in scene. I could take this scene and put it inside of another scene and put that box inside of another box and mail that box to myself. But all of that adds layers that OBS has to calculate on the fly, and flies are small and finicky and they run around and OBS crashes a lot. If you try to do too much with it, especially on a computer that's trying to do other things, which your computer often is if you're a streamer. So if you pre-render it into something that supports transparency, you get a lot of the benefits. I mean, I can't say grab hold of Frex here while she's running up the ladder and move her around live. But we get the benefits of having that transparency that can be used in a scene without having to render it live. So I've pre-rendered it, so I don't have to render it live. There. So when you get all your stuff set up, you've got your timeline done. Everybody's coming and going, and they've done all their stuff. All right, one other thing that I did use when I was setting stuff up here. Whoa. I'm going to use whoever this, I'll use Clover. And whoever that was, but I could see the name Clover here, so I was like, oh yeah, that's Clover. If you happen to have a bunch of these frames and you put them on your clipboard, and then you move this so that your point of insertion is wherever you want it to be, you can paste. So you can repeat actions by pasting your keyframes on the timeline. And if you wanted to do ABBA style boomerang, is another word for it, right? Boomerang style animation. I gotta put OBS back over here on the other monitor. If you wanted to do boomerang style animation, ABBA, you can, when you paste it, you can say paste flipped. And that does exactly what you would imagine it does, where it takes the frames, the keys on the right, and puts them on the left. It flips them. So that's an easy way to do the ABBA style, boomerang style animation. You do have to watch out. Depending on how your values are, you might have to go in and clean up some of what it assumed you wanted it to do, because sometimes, like, especially if you have scale transformations in there, it seems like, I'm not sure exactly what triggers it, but sometimes it can do things like it can take somebody and stretch them out all crazy wacky like. But it is a quick way to get most of the values in place where you need them. So once you've got all that, and you've double checked and you've made sure that up here in your scene that your film is set to transparent, and here in your output properties that you've got everything else, you all set this up, because this is how much time you've got to work with, your frames here. In your output, where is the stuff? This is your file format under output is set to FFmpeg video. This RGBA with the default video and codecs and such won't be available when you first switch it. It'll just say BW and RGB because, it's not even this, it's this down here, because the codec defaults to, where is it? H.264, which does not support the alpha layer. So I've got FFmpeg video, and I'm like, well, I've set transparency up here, and I've got this, and I've even got WebM, which I know WebMs can contain a video stream that is encoded in a way that supports the alpha. But the WebM container is an audio, video, plus other metadata media container. The codec H.264 does not yet. I don't know if it ever would, but it does not support the transparency. So you've got to switch it to something like the QuickTime, or since it's a WebM, And I don't know, you can select QuickTime. I don't know if it'll actually work in most video players because WebM is WebM. So we select WebM, VP9, RGBA becomes available. We make sure that we've selected RGBA because by default, just because it's there, if you had RGB selected initially, like I think it remembered the fact that I had RGBA selected. But anyway, we make sure that's selected. You can change the keyframe interval if you like. I am not knowledgeable enough to know what the optimum keyframe interval for a media source in OBS is. Even if there is there probably is not a universal one. There's probably specifics about, like, if you're streaming at a certain frame rate, then you would want the keyframe interval to be this, and you would want to make sure that your FPS is synced up with your frame rate and whatnot. You can change your output quality. I felt that the output quality was sufficient at medium quality. You can change the encoder speed. The speed of the encoder does actually affect in ways that are very difficult for the human eye to detect a lot of times, but it does affect the quality of your final product. And then again, if you want to have audio, I mentioned this way back when we started talking about all this. If you have audio tracks on here, and I do, I've got the sound. You could just render this as a silent video and attach the audio track later in your editor or command program of choice. Like you could use FFmpeg to stitch the audio and video tracks together in your container, or you could use Kden Live to stitch them together, or whatever other program you like to use. But if you've got audio tracks, and I've got multiples here because I want Woozle to come in on the timeline and sing us the song of his people. Anyway, I hope Woozle doesn't take offense to the fact that I think of that as his song. But if you want your audio, you've got to make sure that you've got an audio codec selected that is compatible with your container. And in this case, since we've got WebMVP9, that's going to be Vorbis. So we've got Vorbis selected. I did not mess with the default frame rates. 48K is more than enough for live streaming. To me, anyway. I have in times past fiddled with frame rates when doing audio mixing, but or not fiddled with sample rates when doing audio mixing. But I try to have to mess with them as little as possible so that I don't have to keep the information about that in the front of my head, crowding out other information. You do all that. You've got everything set up. You've got all this set up. You've been working on it all day. And you go, render. Oh, wait. Oh, there's one other thing. One other thing. You might be like, where did my file go? Where's my file? You've got to make sure that you either, especially if you're rendering something that could be very large. This isn't going to be WebM's compressed really, really well. Especially for things that have large flat pieces of color, and especially for things that have large portions of the video frame that do not change from one keyframe to the next. So that's why this, although a full minute long, and rendering at, 1920 by 1080, this still renders down to just a few megabytes. All right, 19. The original initial render was 19. Then I recorded it in OBS and compressed it again. But if you are outputting something, like say you're outputting an image sequence or something, you got to make sure that you set your output destination to be somewhere that's got space. If you've got another attached hard drive, or if you want it to go straight out to your network attached storage, or whatever the case may be. So I'm just going to take and stick it. I'm going to find a random open. I went past it. Bear burb. I'm going to put it in here. Oh, wait, nope. Up here. All right, bear burb. And we're going to call it. Oh, and that's a little quirk of Blender versus other things. That I would say that my initial habit forming of GUIs was with Windows, but it wasn't. My first personal computer. How to describe this? The first computer that I became adept at was actually an Apple, or a Mac. Sorry, a Mac Classic, not TUI, the original Classic. But that was in my foster family. My first personal computer was a VIC-20 that I found in the garage of my uncle. It was my uncle's computer. It was in my mom's garage. I hooked that thing up with a UHF modulator. I think that's the word, VHF modulator. Anyway, a modulator to the antenna input of a black and white TV that was in the basement of our house. And And that thing doesn't have a GUI. No, that's like 20-something characters by like 60 character text. Visual, or not Visual Basic. Oh man, Visual Basic is eons more advanced. Basic, just the basic operating system, the specialized flavor of Basic specific to the VIC-20 was my initial exposure. So I couldn't say that Windows is necessarily my first, but the one that I had the most time becoming accustomed to were the mechanics of Windows, Microsoft Windows operating system stuff as I made my way through the various computers over the years. Usually very old, very out-of-date computers. I'm talking like IBM 386 with DOS 5.0 in 1999. That was my computer at home. Everybody else was using Windows 98 and talking about how great the future was. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing Scorched Earth on DOS. Which I don't feel bad for. I actually appreciate that that's the way that I became exposed to computing in general and stuff. But I said that because it is very common in Windows programs that if you've got the save as or open the file handling dialogues, and I'm tempted to, but not going to go into stuff about window handle objects and stuff. But I don't want to see the desktop. Desktop's less exciting. We'll put Beatbox up in the background. If you paste a path here, if you paste a path that refers to a folder and press enter, it will check and say, oh, what you had pasted here is the path to a folder, not a file name. I will instead switch my view to be the folder. You could have put the folder name up here in the address bar and changed locations that way, but you didn't. You put it down here, but that's okay. I'm a file handling dialog, and I know better. I know what it is you wanted to do because you paste in the path to a folder here. I'll open that folder. Blender, on the other hand, if you paste in anything down here in the file section, it's going to go, wow, that's a weird file name you just tried to give this file right here. The environment you're in does not support backspaces or the colon character. I'll replace those with underscores because I know what you're trying to do. I'm smart. I'm Blender. That's the file name text input. You're trying to put a file name in here. I'll help you out. I'll replace those with underscores because underscores are supported. And if you want to change the folder you're in, you have to go up. You either click through the GUI or you go up here and you paste the folder path into the folder path up there at the top. So anyway, what were we going on about? Oh, right. I wanted to just change this. I wanted to be like, what is today's date? 2022-02-06 dot, and we're going to save this in the WebM format. Accept. So you do not have to give this a file extension, the same extension as what you chose this, which can confuse yourself later on if you do it on accident. But if you do give it the wrong extension, I'm pretty sure if memory serves, it will append the right extension to the end. So if I had left .mp4 on here, it would give me .webm.mp4 as the file name, which by default in most home users' environments, you're not even going to notice because most home users have the option. Where is it in here? Where is it in Windows 10? They've got the view options, detail, pane, navigation, pane, share, home, not properties. Oh Lord, I forget where it is in Windows 10, and now I feel silly because I wanted to pop it up for demonstration purposes. Whatever. The option is on by default in Windows, and it's been that way for a long time, but it's on by default to not show you the extensions of known file types. So if Windows knows what type that file is well enough that it could give you the type in this column, by default it won't show you the extension. It'll show you the icon that's associated with that extension, and it'll give you the type over here, but the extension will not show up in the file name. So even if I had given this the wrong extension, and it had given me a file that said .webm.mp4, for most folks at home, or for most default setups, they would just see .webm, and it could get confusing for the user because the other files won't have the extension because their system is set up to not show the extension for known file types. But they might not think anything of it because they might be like, well, I said .webm, I had .webm selected. And they might not realize that Windows is just silently removing the tail end of that file name, the extension, silently dropping it off of there and leaving the pseudo extension of .webm that isn't actually the file's extension because it got another extension automatically appended to it. Anyhow, by Blender. But you've got all that. You've got your destination set up. You've done your timeline. You've got Woozle sing into you. You've got the song that you made in Beatbox or wherever it is that you like making songs. And you go render, and you can just use the Control F12, or you can go render animation. It's a little bit faster on my other machine because it's got a little more RAM and whatnot. But there we go. Frame 36, 37. There's 1,336 of these to get through. We're not gonna say. We're not gonna sit here while that happens. So I'm gonna stop that. Let's see. Stop. No, that's not what I want. Stop. Thinking of now. I'm in Windows now. How do I do that in Windows with the keys? I don't actually remember how to do that in Windows. Can I do it from over here? Hey, stop. Sorry, we didn't make any changes. Blender, goodbye. There we go. All right. One of the several different, I tried Control C. I tried clicking on a couple different things. All right, we got it to stop anyhow. And it would render it. I stopped it so it didn't get rendered. I think it'll leave a partial render, but I don't think it got far enough in rendering the WebM that any standard video players would be able to make intelligible video out of it. Anything? You got a couple of frames? Oh, we got a few frames. There. Now the transparency, we did select transparency. We're like, that's not transparent. Ah, panic. It's not transparent, but even the one that we know fully rendered, and we used this in OBS. We know full good and well this has transparency. Oh, wait. I clicked on the sample use one. I didn't want sample use. I wanted this one. Oh, my transparency, it's been eaten, it's been eaten. And that's just because the media player here, Windows Movies and TV, whatever it is Windows Media Player calls itself these days, which apparently in full screen mode will not stay visible if I switch to another window, even though I have two monitors and it's only full screened on one monitor. Anyway, it is not programmed in a way that would allow it to ask the operating system, hey, what's behind my window, so that it can show what's behind the window to you. So it's more or less projecting the video onto a black background. But it does have the transparency. You have to open it in OBS or Kdenlive or some other video editing mixing type environment that knows how to show you that transparency and act on that transparency. Yeah. Moving and grooving. Oh, enjoy movies and media. No, that's okay. Go away. So yeah, man, I gotta catch up. I got into a string and talking. My brain was like, "We're gonna talk now. We're just gonna talk." If you're into the video with a green background, could you chroma key the background on OBS without needing transparency? There you go. Thank you for asking that, Ruzanne. You can. And especially with a scene like this one. Let's see, I'm going to zoom in on just the window here. With a scene like this, there's pretty well nowhere in the color spectrum that's safe for a chroma key. So you could then do something like partially chroma keying parts of the scene and not other parts of the scene, but it makes the initial setup a lot more complicated. Oh, you get pestered by Avast too, says Tia. Yes. Yes, thank you, Avast. Thank you for trying to be so friendly. And also, no, thank you. No, thank you for the features that you keep popping up in front of me. So the chroma keying can become very complicated because of on one hand, just because of the numbers of colors, the variety of colors that's flying through here. But then also, chroma keying has the trouble of it doesn't handle partial transparency as well, not nearly as well. And I wanted to use where's your pop up? I had the idea of trying to use Billy here Billy smiles, as an example of the usefulness of the partial, but I didn't wind up having the time to go in and do what I wanted to partially fade out the edges of the flame, because when you use the alpha transparency feature, the alpha layers, the way that the alpha transparency is being handled, the partial transparency would make it so that this was partially invisible, and you would be able to see, like if I had Frex walk behind the trash can, you would see her through the flames. You could see her through the flames, but not through the rest of it because of the way the alpha transparency is handling the transparency. So there's it is something like where if the color palette of your scene lends itself to selecting a single color to chroma key on, that can be a way to do it. One other drawback, thinking of the processing involved, is that if I were to define a chroma key on this, OBS or whatever my downstream use of the media of the rendered video is, would have to analyze and act on that chroma key per frame that it tries to render for its uses. The alpha is, of course, being acted on per frame anyway, but that like this, I've got this whole video, and that is extra processing that it has to do. That it's or the main reason really is just that I don't know why I keep trying to center this in different ways. Does anyone else have that? You just have to press the keys in a certain order, and until you've pressed all the keys in a certain order, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. You have to keep pressing the keys, and you have to start over from the right part of the sequence. There. Anyway, in this case, the main reason, and I think for me in most cases that I've run into, the main reason why I wanted to find a way to use alpha transparency instead of chroma keying is a lot of the media that I wanted to be able to use chroma key on, or that I would otherwise have used chroma key on, have too much of the color spectrum for me to pick a single effective chroma key, a single effective value to chroma key for. The chroma key answer is yes, but it can get weird. Got it, LOL. And it's like how much it doesn't struggle with the chroma key can depend on things too. Like I'm gonna throw OBS over here. I don't think I have anything green. I don't have anything green on that, but I'll just pretend that it was. I'll turn that back on. I hope it's not too loud, the music that it's playing. I don't have it set to monitor. If I go in here and I wanted to set up a filter, and I'm like, all right, imagining that there was a green back there to key on, to a chroma key on. The key. Custom. I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the colors. I forgot this doesn't have the dragon. Oh, here it is, pick screen. Let's key out which part. I'll key out this part of the. Polarity. There we go. Okay. There. Even at the lowest level of similarity, it's still taking away too much of the coup. So I've got it all the way down at 1, and it's still not specific enough. So it's one drawback. And the size of your file, it's having to process that, however much of the file, it's having to analyze that image. Look at shadow. Oh no, most of Quill's face went away. There is just hair wiggling in the window. Alright. I forgot to remove it. Now it looks weird. It's weird. It does do partial transparency off of the chroma key. But it's transparenting things that I didn't want to be transparent. To the wrong thing. Away with you. Okay. OBS's chroma key stuff is weird. Yeah, Potato. That is true. Jam says if the video is louder than you talking. No! No! Hold on. Sorry about that. There we go. I think from the look of the sliders. I'm looking at the sliders with my soft human eyes, my binocular vision. And the video portions of my brain, having received the signal down my optic nerves, are combining that back together into what I imagine to be a flat image, knowing that it's not, and turning it into what I imagine to be right side up. And it looks to me like the sound is better balanced now with my squishy human brain. So I hope so. So I'd like to play a little bit of, oh hey, since there are a couple of folks here, does anyone, is there anything anyone would like me to show or to talk about related to this project, how it was put together, or how the handful of features from Blender that were used on this project? If there's anyone in chat that would like me to explore some aspect of this, or to describe something more, let me know. So I'll leave this up in the background. So if anyone does have a question, I'll gladly talk it over. Ruzam says, asking don't know if you saw. Ruzam says, asking don't know if you saw. If you animated at 24 FPS and then changed your mind and wanted to say 30 or 60 FPS, does that jack everything up, or is there a tool to translate the animations to different frame rates? I don't know. I'm fairly certain that I feel like if I change something, but it should be easy to see here. Let's go. Let's have Frex come walking around. Frex walks around. All right. That's about how fast Frex was walking around. All right. 60. Oh, she fast. She's zooming. It messes it up. So as far as whether or not there are tools to translate the animation, your existing defined keyframe information, take that and spread it out over a higher frame rate, I suspect someone out there somewhere has something that does that. But sometimes that sort of stuff requires popping open, like the Blender has more or less a Python console that you can just live like squeeze its heart with, or poke it directly in its Blender brain. You can Blender. I don't know if I don't know if folks are much aware, but a lot of what Blender does behind the scenes is Python scripts. There's a lot of Python that goes on back there, especially in either new features. I think universally, or almost universally. I shouldn't say universally. In the plugins that I have used, Python is the language of choice. And Blender, when Blender ships out, it has whatever version of Python that it depends on is actually it uses an embedded Python interpreter in its collection of files. Which is the only reason why you don't have to make sure you've got Python installed on your computer when you also install Blender. But that also means if you've installed Blender, you have a Python interpreter at your fingertips, because you can just kick off Python. Popedo says you've gone into a lot of detail and covered everything I thought about so far. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And it's weird, especially if there's anyone who's spent a lot of years just kind of poking off and on, or playing around, or possibly even doing deep dives into the 3D animation side of Blender, or not animation necessarily, even into the 3D modeling side of Blender. And you might just be like, yeah, Blender, come on. I've opened up Blender. Yeah, I've got Blender, and they either click on general or they just click away, because they know when they open Blender, it defaults to opening a blank general blend project behind you, and they go through their usual stuff of, I got to get rid of the square and start working, or I got to manipulate the square, I got to do whatever, the cube, or a lot of the VRM folks, again, like a lot of the VRM folks will, and when I say the VRM folks, I mean those folks who use tools like, what is it? Chicken of the hair. Vroid? To get your humanoid? Vroid. Oh, to get your humanoid model. You're the initial one with the clothes and the hair. Vroid, right. Because Vroid is a great place to start. If you want to, I want to create something that I can see and interact with, and then I want to change it a little bit, but in moderately advanced ways, or in very advanced ways. But if you're just starting out, I'm hoping you're not going to dive in too deep, because you could make yourself go crazy. A common flow is to start in Vroid, get your model set up, export that as a VRM, and then use the VRM add-on, which I don't know if we actually have set up here at the moment. Because I installed a new version of Blender here, I don't know if 3.0. And because we were working off of a portable version of Blender, which I had totally forgotten, that's how we set it up. Oh, right. Where's the properties? Where's I think it's the preferences. There we go. And add-ons. It does not appear to be. We've got the basic ones that they always come with. We'll go install. I'm fairly certain that horrible clutter of mess here has. Was it chicken to the hair? Was it cats? Oh, VRM add-on for Blender. There it is. VRM add-on for Blender. Install that add-on, which is actually a zipped up collection of Python scripts and other supporting files. Oh my lands, the BRB screen has been going this whole time. There we go. Sorry. Hruzam says Blender's on Steam? I never knew. I didn't. I hadn't looked. But yeah, that's weird. That's cool though. It's cool. A lot of folks, that's basic. Steam is practically their software handling. You know, like they got Windows or whatever. They get Steam, and then all the other software that they work off of is in or connected through Steam. So a lot of folks will get that VRM, that add-on, and then they'll develop their model in Vroid, because Vroid is very well focused on creating certain kinds of humanoid 3D models. So through Vroid, then they export to VRM, which retains enough of the model's data to be palatable. So you get all of your bones and your mesh, your materials and such, and then they'll import that VRM to Blender using the import plugin there. So a lot of folks who do that, their first step in a blank file is to press A to select all and delete the stuff here, because none of that's going to help them in their workflow. It's just going to kind of clutter things up. And they'll bring in their model, work on it in here, and then either export the VRM that they modified here because they don't want to do anything else to it, or I think most commonly, they'll export the VRM from here, import that, I shouldn't say most commonly, quite commonly, pretty commonly in some of the tutorials I have seen. They'll export from here as VRM, import that into Unity, do further changes in Unity, like adjusting the shape keys and whatnot. Or, well, no, you adjust the shape keys here, but you map the shape keys in Unity. I'm sure you can adjust them in Unity too, but anyway. They get all the shape keys mapped up, and then from Unity, they export to VRM again so that they can use it in VC Face or whatever. Or they export it to, I forget the name, the format, but the format for use in virtual VRC chat. Virtual reality chat. So that's a handy. But thinking of exporting again from Blender to go into Unity, it is worth learning the very small handful of extra steps to be able to go. I'm not going to go any further than opening the hub. I forgot Unity. Not that I forgot, but I wasn't thinking about how massive a resource hog Unity is. Unity, no, go away, quit. But you can put your blend file directly into your Unity project. You can open and edit the blend file by double-clicking on the blend file in your Unity project. It'll open up Blender. You can save whatever changes you might have made to your mesh and your materials and stuff in Blender, save it, and when you close it, Unity will automatically update any instance of that blend file that you have referenced in your scene. And then with a few extra steps, many of which are the same steps that you do when you import the VRM, but you do them for the blend file. There's a couple of steps that you have to take special for the blend file because it doesn't automatically create things that the VRM plugin does, but they can be created manually. There's like 2 or 3 steps where you have to create an object and attach it to the instance of the blend file that you have in your scene. But you do that, you attach all that stuff up, and then you don't have to re-export import the VRM. If you make changes to the mesh or changes to the materials or changes to the blend shapes within a certain scope when it comes to the blend shapes, because blend shapes are real finicky. But you can save those changes from Blender here, close Blender, go to Unity. Unity will automatically refresh itself, and then you can just hit export, because in Unity you can do stuff like define the VRM metadata about the author and the acceptable use of that VRM model. You can define all that in a metadata object that you attach to the instance of that thing in your scene. Do it once, hit save, and until you need to change something, unless you want to change your contact information or whatever, you don't have to retype all that metadata every time you go to export. So it's just a workflow efficiency thing. All right. I want to play that hex game. Unless there's any other questions. Oh, what's going on? What's going on in chat? I got to talking about Blender and Unity and Potato. Debug smug. Frex, that reminds me. I have like a version of RPG Maker on here that was on sale for $3 instead of 60 years ago. Oh yeah, RPG Maker, the moistening. We have never. What's the word? We have never brought the story of the moistening and the monkey tears of sadness or the monkey rage. We've never brought that story out to life. We've never. Someday. All right, Steam's still up. Xseed's still here. Can I ask you if you haven't? Could we switch it to? Thank you. All right. The tunes, the puzzles, the toasty labs. Them labs is toasty. Oh wait, we did that. Right, we just did that one. Top or bottom, top or bottom. I'm gonna start at the bottom. 0, 2. Wait a minute. I don't see a way to be sure. I don't see a way to be certain which of these it is. It pointed this way. This has no arrows. It's a mystery. Wait till I get to level 1. Oh no. Alright. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I wasn't thinking. Alright, so we know. Here, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, no, 2, 2, no. Oh, numbers. 2, 2. No, 2. Oh, 2 and 2, right. Hexagons. Sure I understand why this is 0 with an arrow. I'm sure I'll understand in a minute though. If this says 0 and it's got an arrow pointing that way, this is apparently 1 because I clicked on it and it got angry at me. Interesting. How can... There's no wall? I thought the wall was the only thing that could prevent this from counting something. Arrow is important in ways that I have forgotten. The arrow tells you there is 0 in that row. So there's some times where the number is only specifically talking about a row and does not describe anything. Oh, interesting. It's fun. Knowing that this row has 0. Oh, that is fun. Okay, 0, 1, and it's pointed this way. So now it's getting me to use what it just taught me and say there's 1 somewhere in this direction. Must be this one. Okay. Zeros, 1. 2. Well, no, wait, well, not 1. 1. Wait. Ah, Clover! This is not Chimkin. Who is you, squirrely friend? Hi, Clover. Sorry, yes it is. 'Tis I! Never fear, Simon Belmont is here to destroy evil monsters and all you hold dear. I was so confused at first. Sorry, I don't mean to sow confusion. We just went over, oh goodness, about an hour and a half of talking where we discussed the entire process of building out the little scene we did for Frex. And like everything from we had to update Blender because this machine was not updated. That was accidental. That wasn't on purpose. Through like how to use an animated GIF, which you have to extract into separate images and bring in as an image sequence. Through the basics of setting your keyframes and the timeline and all that. And now we're chilling out with some Hexseed. Grooving. Oh, wait a second. 2. Oh, wait, no. That's 1. So it's one of these. 1, 1, 1, 2. Oh, but if that's 2, it has to be these 2. Right, because that's 2. It's not these. It's got to be these. That's 1. Then this can't be 1, because that's 1. Bloop, bloop. Now this has 1. This is the only one that can be. And this has 2, and it's already got 2, so that can't be. This has 2, and it's already got 2, so that can't be. Breakfast. Doing good. Oh, that's good. Just on the couch, losing at card games. Rex, we could have set you up on the computer on the other side of the room there with that mic and just had you like stream the mic signal over here. I guess we could have just used Discord. But that one's, I'm pretty sure OBS on that one is set up to kind of broadcast to our LAN here, and I could have just picked it up and brought you in. Frex, I'm going to tell him, Frex. She said she's too lazy. Squirrel Sunday! I'm so deep voice manly. Yes, surely you are, Frex. Design. Frexel Nexon. Smooth jams. Oh, do you like pancakes? Pancakes. 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 Alright. We got the whole bottom there. Let's get this top one. Zero. I've learned things about arrows. There can be multiple arrows. It's taking it easy on me. It's telling me there's just nothing to worry about over here. My little snowflake here, it's safe. This might not be so safe. That was safe. There's one. Does this mean there's one in either direction, or that there's one in each row? I'm gonna find out. I'll bet they've made it so I can find it. I'm not gonna look at chat. I'm gonna find out. There's one here. 1 and 1. So this can't be, because this one's got no arrows, and it's 1 and 1. 2. I've already got 1 here. So it's one of these two. Being one of these two, 1 in this row will have been satisfied. It is, but oh, this has got 1 here, so it can't be this one, or that one would be a 2. So it's got to be this one. We have satisfied the requirement of there being 1 in this row, supposing that this arrow, or knowing that the arrow means there's 1 in this row, but that this is 1, does that mean there's 1 in just this row, or 1 in both of these rows? I'm going to guess that it means there's 1 in either of these 2 rows. That's my guess. So I think these are, I'm going to guess these are safe. Yeah, okay, so that is what that means. If this were a 2 with 2 arrows, then there could be 2 here, or there could be 1 here, 1 here, or 2 here, and none here. Interesting. 1, 1, 4. Boy. That one just loaded them up. Smooth jazz. Button sounds like a jazz radio show host I'd hear on the way to the airport at 4 a.m. Smooth jazz on twitch.tv/FrexelNexon. Oh shoot. Twitch.tv/ no, yeah, no, I got that right. That's how the URL would go. https:// Oh, 1 in the row. Right, I forgot that means somewhere in the whole row. 0, 0, 0, 0 here. We're safe all the way. Oh, the arrow excludes. I forgot. It's reminded me. The arrow excludes, or means that this number does not apply to anything except that row. Whereas here, the number applies to anything around it. The arrow, it is only talking about the row. The number does not in any way reflect the rest of the things that might be touching this. Interesting. But we know that. This one's got 1, so that's got to be 1. This one's got 1. That is 1, so this can't be 1. Let's see, where are some other ones that we know for sure? Oh, this one. This one's got 2. There's only one other one here that could touch. And this one's got 2, and it's already touching 2, so that can't be. This one's got 2, and the only other one it could be is this. Right, so now we're going to have to use our row clues. We know there was only 1 in this row, and that it was here, so these can't be. 0 in both of these directions. Now, does the arrow stop at the wall? I suspect the arrow is only true up until the wall. That's my guess. Potato says this is like a more complex Minesweeper. It is. It's a complex Minesweeper with totally chill visuals and totally chill music. If there's 1 here, it can only be there. There's only 1 here, and we've got 1 there, so that can't be. Again, we've got 1 that's already touching. It's exclusive. It likes some exclusive, that one. 2. I'm here. 1 and 1. 2. 3. This wall means that can't have been it, so this has to be it. 2. 1. 0. Alright. That's got 1. This has got 2. There's a wall here, nothing here. That's got to be. That's only got 1. There we go. There, 1 in this row, so those are safe. 1. We got those two. There's our two. One. Could be either of these based on just that. So does this arrow extend past this wall? I feel like it does not. If the arrow does extend past the wall, then I know that's safe. If it does not, if the arrow stops at the wall the way that these numbers also stop at the wall when it's no arrow, then that could be a bomb. One of the things that the puzzles embedded in this game, one of the things I like about the way that it handles it is if you try to mark it wrong, you get immediate feedback that was wrong if you try to mark one as a bomb that wasn't. Or Minesweeper will just let you mark it wrong, and then you're totally screwed up until you eventually get blown up. Started down this path because we were initially playing Minesweeper, right? Was it Ruzam that... Yeah, Ruzam. Ruzam suggested this as a great next logical step from Minesweeper. I don't think they worded it that way, but that's the way that it coalesced in my brain. Let's test this theory. Does that 0 go past the wall? It does. I mean, I cannot say for certain that it did not. It's still possible that it may not have, had there been a bomb here. In this case, it turned out to be safe, so that's good. That's handy. No. I'm not. I still have to noodle through, though, how this helps. It says 2. It says 1. This was a bomb. It doesn't tell me anything about what's not next to it. This had 2. This has 2. I've got 1. Those aren't. 1 there. Oh wait, but I filled this in, so this one has to be right. This 2 here doesn't reach all the way up to there. So this is 1, this is 2. These are both 1, that can't be, that can't be, and that can't be. There we go. Our lumpy little barbell shape is full. I love puzzle games like this. I like when things pick my brain. Yeah, Clover. Me too, and especially when it does it in a way that is where the whole scene is set calmingly. It doesn't like jab my brain in a negative way, in a hurtful way. Somewhere up here, there's another one. Whee. There's a lot of space up here that other one could be. Any of these give me clues? No clues are jumping out at me. Sweet. Zeroing it up. Those zeros are sure convenient. 1. We know this one, so this one can't be. Here we got a 3. So 1. So we got all those 3. That one from that 3. 0. Zeros are sure convenient. 2. This 1 is only touching 1 that 1 can be. And this 2 is now filled in, and so is that 2. This 1. 6. Oh. Nope. But that arrow points up this way. Maybe it's teaching me something. Because this arrow points up this way and down this way. Oh wait, right. It's saying it is Well, teaching me reminded me of something. That the 6 just means that there are 6 bombs. Are they bombs in this game officially? I didn't pay enough attention. There are 6 exclamation marks somewhere radiating out away from this spot. They might all be in one row. They might all be in a bunch of different rows. But somewhere, there's 6 of them. See, we've got 1. There's 5 more somewhere. Not here, because this one already accounted for. So, somewhere out here, 5 more. Apparently not this one, though, because I tried that and it told me I was wrong. Sarah, I had to leave and take a call. Is this a Minesweeper variant? It is. Yeah. It's Hexa something. Hexseed. Hexseed is the name of this game. It is super chill. It is a variant of Minesweeper with a lot of layers added onto the puzzling. Alright, and I am, this is still, did I get out of tutorial land? I might actually still be in tutorial land. What are the black lines? Alright, the black lines here are like little walls. So in Minesweeper, we're used to just the number means how many it's touching. And that still stands true at its most basic here in Hexseed. The number means the number of exclamation marks are going to be. Like this is a 2, right? We know Minesweeper logics. They've expanded it to be hexagons instead of squares, but we still know 2. All right. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. 2. That already had 1. 2. But we get these zeros. The zeros tempt me so because they're so easy. All right. Now it introduces these walls. The numbers don't count things that could be on the other side of a wall. So walls affect what information the number is communicating. So these 2 were here, but there could be another bomb up here. It wouldn't be counted because this one is protected by that wall. And then these arrows come in to say that the number means, like this one here, 2. Oh, I should have noticed that just now. There are 2 bombs somewhere in the directions that these arrows point. So I know that this was 1 because I went working around in a circle. I worked out these 2 were. Well, there's my 2. So this row should be safe. There we go. Yep, this row is safe. There's 2 somewhere in these 3 directions. So whenever I find another bomb, somewhere along here or along here, I'll know that the whole rest of those directions is safe. This one's got 6 radiating out. I've got 1, so there's 5 more to find somewhere along the radiating bars of that there. Mm-hmm. So they're not considered adjacent. Right. They're not considered adjacent if they have a wall protecting them. 1. Oh, we got 1 there. There's a 1. So that's 0. 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1. 3 in this direction. Oh, 3 in this direction. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. 1. Already touching 1. 3. It's already touching 3. All 3 of them already touched. Nice. We got like a whole side of the board here. A little bit to go. 1, 1, 1, 1. Still touching it. 2. 1, 2. This one. I think this one's got to be it. So that's 2 and that's 2. 1. Touching there. Got 1 there. That's 6. That 6 one now has 5, 4. I only need 4 more to find, and I've got that one satisfied. Oh man, 1. Oh wait, 1. So this one can't be. 1. This one can't be. All right, 2. These 2 have to be. 1. This one can't be. 2. Yeah. All right. Now I've got 5, 4, 3, 2. Good. If my counting's right, I've got 2 more to satisfy this one. Wrote this. Still just the 1. Done all the ones that indicated. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. There's 2 here. So that's gotta be. That's only touching 1. 2 here. That's gotta be. No. Oh my gosh, I'm so silly. 2 here, so it could be anywhere up there. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Oh wait, does that mean did I get all those now? I'll do it again. I'll start down here. We'll start at this. Oh, we'll start up here at 0/12 o'clock. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we found all 6 that could be referred to by the arrows in this square here. So I know these 2 are safe. That's only touching 1. All right. This is touching 1. That's touching 2. Oh, yeah, that is touching 2. Yes. Touching 2, that's touching 1. Anything else giving me real obvious clues? I think I'm gonna finish this one up and start wrapping up, I think. Let's see, we've got 2 more. We've got 2. So 1 more for this, 1 more for this one. That's got 1. Oh wait, that's got 1. It can only be 1. It can only be 1 right there. Blam. That's got 2, but it's already touching 2. So that can't be. Since that couldn't be, and this one needs to have something, that has to be. And that's touching 3. Here we go. Hey, milestone 2 unlocked. Alright, this whole island is tutorial island. I forgot. Can I get this to zoom out? Probably a way to do it. Scroll key's not doing it. Control scroll, shift scroll, alt scroll. No? Oh. Oh, look, I'm like halfway through tutorial island. I think since I just got a milestone achievement, I think I'll call it on Exceed for now, and call it. Bye. Excuse me. Sorry. I will call it in general for the day. Oh, chicken of the hair. Oh, chicken of the hair. Is this model? Yes, you are. Good. I forgot. She's totally chicken of the hair. I don't know if y'all see this. Have I ever shown me big? Look, there she is. See Frex up there in the corner? She got her little crown. There's a little crown up there. It's totally Frex. All right. Put me back in the corner. Raid time! Raid time! That's having Frex in the corner on that model is why I keep calling her chicken of the hair, because she's hanging out on my head watching the action. Or you said. All right, we're gonna raid Ori. Raid Ori. Hup. Ori. There she goes. There she goes. Let's get her. All right, what is it? Slash raid. Oh, you did it already? Oh, look at that. There's the top prompt right up in front of me where my own human eyes could see it if I was paying attention. All right, we're going to raid Ori. Rex, do you have a raid message? No? Oh, man. Squirrel raid, sure. Squirrel raid to add to the confusion. Yeah, spelled exactly like that. Squirrel raid. Squirrel raid. Do I have chat up? I might have. I think I have chat up. I have. Yeah. Here we go. Thanks for stopping by, y'all. Vera, thank you for stopping by. Hosting Ori.